Mamiki Kuhn here, and welcome to Mamiki TV, the place to build a brilliant business. Today, we are talking about how to create a viral online presence. Susie Romans is ruling her online empire as a business coach and marketing consultant. With a six-figure business and a blog that's reached over 5 million organic web visitors, she's redefining what's possible as a working mom and CEO. Susie has helped aspiring entrepreneurs, consultants, and small business owners leverage an online presence, build a dream business, and go viral. So welcome, Susie. Welcome to Mamiki TV.
Thank you so much.
Take two. We didn't press record the first time. I know, that's why I have to check these things. It's the techie stuff.
Oh, it's technology, huh? That
Well, we got to welcome you because this is your first blab. So if anyone else, this is your first time here, I know we have Davies just joined, giving you some props, which is great. There's little bubbles that'll pop up underneath are a good way of giving you some interaction, and the comments as well. You know, make sure that you pay attention because we're going to give you an opportunity to ask Susie some comments, and we've got some great content to go through. So now I've seen you just about everywhere online, and I know I keep seeing your name pop up. We're in several groups, Facebook groups, and you have a great way of being able to create that connection and the communication between people. And what you're known for, of course, is the viral side of getting a message out there pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. So let's dive right in and tell our audience a little bit about you, what your business does, and how you actually get your business and your message to go viral.
Awesome. So how far back should we start? I always ask. I've always been entrepreneurial. So even when I was a kid, I grew up, my background, so my parents actually were kind of lower middle class income. So growing up, I saw them struggle, and I always knew that there was another way. You know what I mean? As I grew up, I nannied for some wealthy families, and I thought, okay, like I understood that there was a different way to live life, that you didn't have to be in scarcity. So as I kind of went through the hoops of college and, high school, college, graduating, all that, it was pretty clear to me after a couple of years after college that I just didn't want to work for other people. So after the birth of my daughter, so things moved pretty quickly. My husband and I met when we were rather young, got married, had our first daughter. And that's when I started. Well, I shouldn't say the first time. It was the first successful blog was when my daughter was born, which is called Stay at Home Susie. Prior to that, when my husband and I were dating, I always joke that we were total nerds because we would, like when all of our friends would be out at like bars or going out, we would be at these little internet cafes, like building websites, and we'd be coming up with like ideas, You
sound like me. My husband and I are the same. Got married when I was 20, and then instead of going out to the movies there, learning how to code on HTML or web design, and I'm like, this internet's fabulous.
Exactly. So we were like learning WordPress. He's actually a software developer. So he knew a lot more. He's a programmer. And for me, everything was new, but I love the concept of WordPress and still do, because it makes it so easy for anyone to build a site. So as I said, we kind of dabbled. The first successful thing that I did was the Stay at Home Susie blog. And that's when, really, I started I learned marketing slightly in college, but not really. More through, I studied media communication. So I learned a little bit about video, was probably the most important thing that I learned in school. And so it just shifted so quickly, right? Like social media came about when I was in school. They didn't even have classes on social media. So kind of self-taught all of that. And so where was I going here? Okay, so the blog. So I was trying out all different things, and I was in different groups and kind of reading and listening to podcasts, right? And so I'd get these ideas, and I just want to test everything out. So I had this little baby, this little project, right? This blog, and I would test out all these different things. So the first few big successes were through Pinterest, I would say. I really understood how to create curiosity and how to make people click, how to pull them into your world. It's not just about what you're doing, but it's about how you're writing and how you can intrigue and pull people into your brand. And so today, how all of that kind of shows up in my business now is I've had, I don't just do Pinterest and Facebook anymore, but I've grown to other areas, also advertising. But the things that I learned about curiosity and creating that viral presence still crosses over into other platforms as well. So it's been a learning curve. It's been amazing. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, and that's the
Awesome.
thing is the platforms are new, like Blab as well. I think Blab is like what, 6 months old, maybe a
Wow.
little older than that, March, April.
Yeah.
So, and
Wow.
that's the thing is you keep learning as something new comes along, and you can adapt and pivot depending on where you're at. Like, and that's what I love about, the opportunities to do things on an online basis. But what I hear you saying, and I think it's so crucial that no matter what kind of business you are, whether you are a consultant, a coach, an author, a speaker, an entrepreneur, you really still be able to need to get people to engage with your stuff, right? Whether it's your blog post or your social media posts, which is, I'm sure now you'd agree, is even more important. Less text, you got less time and less text and able to get people to take action. So let's break it down for folks and tell them some actionable tips. So like, what would you say is, so we talked about curiosity, which I love. So let's break it down. How would you explain curiosity? How would you help someone write more with more curiosity?
Sure. So the first way that this showed up in Pinterest is I began creating text or images with text on them, which is something that a lot of people weren't doing back when it first started. I'm talking like 3 years ago, something like that. And so I would create these images in PicMonkey, and I would write my headlines on there. And I'd work really hard at making my headlines clickable, share worthy, or pinnable, and those are all those kind of terms that I use to create curiosity. Like if we were to say, imagine the difference between somebody just pinning, for example, a picture of a couple. Just a stock image of a man and a woman standing together, or even sharing that on Facebook. Think about other platforms too, versus having an image with maybe a couple somewhere back there or some hearts or something, but then the text saying 10 ways or 10 great date ideas for your anniversary or something like that. So I was testing out all of those things using these images, different colors, and then the text that would make people click through. Because the whole point of social media in a lot of ways, and I suppose you could argue this, but in my opinion, you want to get people to your site, right? You want to get them off of Distractionville, which is social media, right? Where all these different things you can click on, all these different people to follow and colors and images, and especially on Pinterest. If you can get them to click on your article, get off of Pinterest and onto your site, you've got them, and then comes the fun of keeping them there and keeping them consuming your content and opting in, and all that stuff is like, just lights me up, that actually
I know, like we can talk conversions and marketing clicks, and I'm like, yay!
Yeah. So, but to answer your question, so create curiosity by writing headlines that are really juicy and that pose a question, or lists are really good. Basically, you want them to wonder what's on the other side. What is the answer to that? Is it a secret to something? Is it a special, X, Y, and Z tip? It has to be something that they have to know. They click on there like, I got to know, what is she talking about? What are those 5 things? Or, it has to be written in such a way, and also visually, it has to appear that way so that they get off of the social media onto your site.
So Stephanie, like images are still key, and I have been a photographer for 12 years, and I know images are so important to grab people's attention, especially now with the likes of Pinterest and Instagram. We've all become visual consumers. That there's no excuse to having a bad image anymore, and things like PicMonkey as well. But I love Canva. Canva is a great way to be able to go and create some very easy graphics, drag and drop, and be able to pin them. So now I can hear a bit of an echo. I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear my voice twice in your?
No.
I don't know why I'm hearing it twice. Let me see. Has anyone else got some sound issues? So where was I going? I lost my train of thought already. So, okay. So you mentioned the juicy headlines, and you say that it took you quite a while to get those down, right? So can you give us an idea of how you get to finding a juicy headline?
I wouldn't say it took a while. It was really just testing and playing around with it. So I'd buy some stock images and I'd play around with different. So I would take one piece of content, and this is a big tip as well. Take one piece of content and find multiple different ways to market that piece of content. So maybe for Facebook, it would be a 600 by 600 pixel image with some, some person here and some text here. Try a red border or whatnot, right? And then Same thing, but with Pinterest. So that same piece of content, you can use different ways of getting people in there. There could be 10, 15, 20 different entry paths into that piece of content. So I would say that's what I would be doing. It wasn't so much, I wonder who it was. Somewhere along the way, I heard somebody say 20% of your time should be spent creating content.
Oh, that must be Derek Halpern. He's like,
yeah, is he the one who said that?
Yeah, and it's the same thing. It's spend 20% creating and 80% promotion. And I had the exact same issues. I was spending 80% creating, thinking, oh, I need new content, new blog posts. But if nobody's hearing it, what's the point, right? And we sometimes think because we've heard it or we've read this post 100 times, or maybe people in our network have heard it, so they need reminding. Sometimes it's okay to rehash content, right? Just to recycle it through.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what I would be doing. I would create one piece of content and then try so many different paths to getting people onto that piece of content. Something else that comes to mind, something I included in one of my ebooks that I wrote, was to create a viral post. Now, people get really jazzed up about the word viral, and it can be a good thing because your numbers go up very, very quickly, and that's an impressive thing. However, that doesn't mean that all the people who end up on your site are like highly qualified people, which is one of the problems that I ran into. A few of the kind of lifestyle blog pieces that I wrote had attracted women who were not entrepreneurial. It was rather just like a mass audience. So you have to kind of think about, is that what you want? Is your goal big numbers and viral presence? Or if you're just going for a small number of qualified prospects, you don't need necessarily 1 million or 5 million people, right? But with that kind of disclaimer comes this little kind of formula that I came up with in one of my ebooks, which was, in order to have a viral post, I think you need to have 2 things, which one is an emotional factor, like something that creates an emotional reaction out of somebody, and a kind of a mass interest. Right? Because if you're just talking, for example, I don't know why this came to mind, but if you're just talking about like 5 ways that professional football players can build more muscle, I mean, that's not going to go viral because you're only talking to pro football players. That's like, how many people. So that formula, have emotion. So usually it should be something strong. It could be, you see a lot of these kind of stories going viral on Facebook of like something sad or an animal getting pulled out of a gutter, out of a street, right? Those kind of things, because it creates a strong emotion in us. One of my lifestyle pieces that went viral first, and this was before I was business coaching, so I was just kind of dabbling more in lifestyle pieces, was about dating. Like I said, it was 77 ideas for fun dates. Now, when you think about going on a date, I mean, I got so many, like hundreds of thousands of hits from this because people love the idea of going on a date. It lights them up. They get all giddy and they're, I'm going to, text my boyfriend all these ideas, or my husband all these ideas right now, right? So it created the emotion. It was also mass interest. Everyone goes on dates, right? Unless you're a child, or, it's just a mass interest thing. So do you see the difference between like that versus like the football player thing? But I threw in that disclaimer because it doesn't mean that, like I said, if you're a copywriter, for example, and you need 5 clients every month, if you don't need to go viral, like you don't have to follow that formula. So, I mean, definitely, I think we worry about the numbers and thinking the more numbers we have, the better our content will do. But sometimes, I had the same issue. Like I wrote a blog post just for my own personal preferences. I'd gone to England. I lived in England, but my mom and my sister still live there, and I got so fed up with some of the problems I encountered as a mom traveling with a toddler in the strollers, and how you where you find things and all these kind of things. And it's almost like a venting post. I wrote it out, tips for traveling to England, and it's still one of my most viral Pinterest posts. It's got nothing to do with my business. Yeah. So it's a bit of a toss up. It's like it gets me views, but a lot of those eyeballs are, great content, but they probably will never come back again, or they're not going to take interest. They're maybe not signing up for my email list because they're really not my ideal client avatar. But again, I have to agree with you. It depends on what it is that you're aiming for. So like say, okay, we know the word virality means almost like online fame. So sometimes that's not always a good thing. How can we get that virality amongst an audience who we know are our ideal audience? Is there certain tips or techniques that you could give us
would help you get like in the mind of that person?
Great point. Yeah. So as you start shifting, and this is definitely something that came to mind once I started realizing and I made that connection that I had grown a massive list and I had grown all these hits and my Google Analytics were through the roof, impressive. But then I look at my number of clients or people who were buying a product that I launched, and the numbers are rather low in comparison to the reach that I had. So you make that connection. Well, maybe they're just not interested in this product or program because they're not entrepreneurs or they're not businesswomen or whatever. So I would say you need to shift your content strategy. You need to think about what are topics, and really just, I like brainstorming, take out a piece of paper, Google document, and start brainstorming what are the topics, the things that your ideal client is really, really interested in. And I know that sounds kind of basic, but I recently worked with a copywriter on this ideal customer avatar exercise where she's actually kind of, I don't know if she would call herself a cartoonist, but she literally drew, while I was talking about this dream client, she drew the whole thing out in like a cartoon. It's beautiful. It's like a masterpiece. So when I think about this girl, this ideal dream client, I have this picture, this cartoon with all these things coming out of it. And when I think about her, I look at that picture and I say, what would she be dying to read about this week? What is she dying to know? And I think about that one person, that one ideal person, and then brainstorm anywhere from 10 to 20 different ideas or concepts or topics, and then put it through that viral filter or these curiosity filters, right? So if she really wants to know how to add more people to her email list, or how
you mentioned how to, because I think that's an important thing. Topics that are like how-tos, whys, you said questions.
Yeah, I have a whole document about this. I might have to find, I don't think I'll find it right now because I'm buried probably in all these. I have so many files on my Google Docs, but I do have a list of the most kind of clickable and consumable types of content. So just off the top of my head, lists, how-tos, reviews, or taking something that is a common, not common, what's the word I'm looking for, like a current event. And then analyzing that or putting your own view on it, or taking something else that's gone viral, some other person's, I don't know, grab a video from, Tony Robbins or somebody who's really well known, and then put your take under it. There's also, what else is there? Now I'm drawing a blank, of course, because I'm on the spot, but I'll find that document. I have a whole list of like the most consumable and clickable types of content.
Yeah, this is a great ideas, because sometimes you think you want to be able to give people content, but you don't want to just put it out there and it doesn't seem to have that clickable factor. So it's important to think about, and you mentioned, having that client avatar. And for me, I love branding and the marketing about who you're speaking to, because you can't write for somebody if you don't know who you're talking to in the first place. So that goes without saying. Client avatars are absolutely important. So we're talking about, I'm busy taking notes here. We were talking about, the difference between virality and, actual engagement, which I think is important to think. Shifting your content strategy and headlines. What would you think would be another thing? So we're talking to the business person who really wants to get more clients with their content. So we're not necessarily looking for, a flash in the pan. What would your other advice be?
Well, so part of the game is getting people off of social media. So okay, I have a lot to say about this, right? If you just blog, I have some people who come to me and they're like, oh, I've been blogging consistently and doing all the right things, right? But they're not going to where the party's at. So I have that phrase of like, go where the party's at, go where the people are hanging out. And oftentimes that is social media, right? So find a way to pull them off of that platform, Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook, wherever they are, pull them off through that curiosity and that content onto your site. And then once they're on your site, that's the whole nother story, right? In terms of creating content for them to consume, to get pulled into your brand, your opt-ins. And that's, I think, where I take it to the next level of going into more depth, because a lot of people come to my site. The question is more, but my focus is more on who's opting in, and is my opt-in in total alignment? What I created, that PDF, that ebook, that video, is that, like, I make sure that is exactly what my ideal customer needs and is looking for.
So every other kind of content that you make really is about what she's asking. So where would you find out about what it is that she's looking for? Is there certain places you like to go to sort of search for topics? What are your favorite sort of apps or websites?
I spend a good amount of time in Facebook groups. I know those are really popular right now, especially in the entrepreneurship circles. And looking at the conversations, I use the search bar a lot. So if there's a certain topic, I'll type in SEO and see what's the conversation. What are people talking about or asking about regarding that? And the other thing I do often is just emailing out my list and asking them, what do you guys want to learn? What are you struggling with right now? Fill out this questionnaire, click a couple buttons, or come to Facebook and do this poll to listen and hear, straight from them. Like, what do you guys need from me right now?
And I think, wouldn't you agree, there's a shift, especially in the last year or so or two, that instead of just creating content out there like spaghetti, throwing it at a wall, hope it sticks, people are honing into more about really specificity, like really let's be specific about what somebody wants, like really finding those questions and answering those questions. Because this is something, I made this mistake. I've had so many failed launches for courses and for programs. I'm like, why didn't anyone buy? Because it wasn't what they wanted. It's what I thought they wanted. So how would you say, in order to create that content that, like say you're launching a course. Okay, so what is your format, or do you have a sort of strategy you have in order to develop this course? Do you test the idea first? Do you sell it first? Like, what's your thoughts on that?
Good question. So I interview my list first and foremost. So the last time that I did a launch, I asked my list. So I created like a Survey Monkey type thing and had them fill that out. And then I do take it. I look in the groups, but I really do also lead with what my expertise is, because I'm not going to include something in the course that I don't feel like I can totally light up and talk about with immense amount of passion and background in. Something that I didn't really cover on this call is that before doing marketing consulting and becoming a business coach, I worked for high-level marketing firms. So I've worked with SEO companies and some really large firms like in downtown Chicago and stuff that did digital marketing. So it was always in my background, right? So I would encourage people to like stay in that area of expertise that you have. And if you want to shift, really make sure that you know your stuff, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So I break it down. I find that this is most helpful when you kind of toss out all your ideas into either a document or some little Post-it notes or something, and then categorize them. Like, where does that fall? Because here's all the things that I'm really good at talking about that I know really well, and then kind of categorizing them that way. So to answer that question, I do ask, but I spend a lot of time digging into my expertise. And then I would say when it comes to the sales page, that's where you also have to look at the phrases that people are using. And if they're buying or not buying, it might not be the content of inside as much as it could be your sales page. Too, you know what I mean? Like you have to use the phrases that they use and the kind of lingo, like how do they say it? When they want some result, like what are they saying and how are they saying it?
So kind of like just putting back what they've said to you. So if you've asked them in the survey, like in my instance, my expertise is video marketing. I love helping people create videos, but then using it as a marketing format. So part of what I focus on, and that's the other thing, is if you're digging into a subject, you could be like videos itself is a huge topic, but I've honed that into teaching you how to leverage it for your business so you can use it to spread your message. Where I'm not going to get into deep technical stuff and the hows and twos, and I'm not teaching you to be a TV director. I want to teach you how to just get yourself on there in the fastest, quickest way possible. So even for then, I found it kind of hard. How do you dig into that content that you could throw a whole bunch of stuff at people, but it's knowing what it is that they really want. And funny enough, sometimes it's the simple things like, in my instance, I just don't feel confident on camera. I don't know what to wear, or I don't know what equipment to use. And sometimes for us as experts, we're like, well, duh, doesn't everyone know that? But sometimes that's not it, right? It's just making it simple and pulling out what they want to know.
Yeah, I really like using the Facebook poll tool, like in my Facebook group. I did that before one launch and actually had a lot of people engage with it because it's so easy to, I don't know, many people don't use it or don't know that it's available, but like, you hit click, add a question or ask a question, and then all the poll options. It's so much easier for them to engage and if they have something to click on, because sometimes they don't know how to vocalize or verbalize or put into words. So yeah, absolutely.
So then what would you say? Okay, so we've covered, you know, with virality, because a lot of people here, they go, oh, I'm going to go viral. Like if I have 10 million people see my website, it doesn't help, first of all, if it crashes your website. These people never come back again. They don't sign up to your list. You can't keep the relationship, and it's also not a good use of your time. So would you say, do you use things like, do you use guest blogging, or are you primarily like to just do stuff on your own site?
Mm-hmm. So, interesting question. So this year we've talked about how we're going to change up our strategy. And in 2015, just because of the quick growth of my coaching practice and e-course programs, we spent a little bit less time on creating content than we should have. And we spent more time on growing the income producing side of things. But as 2016 has started, I've really reflected with my team on like, what do we want to do consistently for marketing? Because, you know, I'm preaching consistency all the time. But in 2015, I felt like we just had this burst of customers. We had to serve them through the programs and put our focus there. So anyway, with 2016, we are focusing on like rich content. So when I think about like a rich piece of content, it goes beyond a blog article, although it could be shown as a blog. But to me, a rich piece of content has a video embedded. It has little social media shareables. It has different headlines and topics, but layers. Do you know what I mean? Layers of different content versus like a 500-word blog article. So what we're doing this year is we're doing this monthly piece of content that's called the Royal Report, where we interview experts. We embed a video. So it's a professionally recorded new YouTube show that I'm doing. So I hired a video crew to come shoot that, and we'll film, 5 episodes at a time. So we embed that. We do the Q&A, which I love Q&As with other people or any sort of like roundup of other experts, because it puts your face next to other people's faces, and it also adds to your reach. Something that we haven't discussed on this call yet is just using other people's presence or kind of borrowing their audience to grow your own, right? A lot of people who are starting out ask me, I'm posting on my blog, but nothing's happening. Or I'm posting on my Facebook fan page and nothing's happening. Well, you don't have an audience. There's nobody there, who's going to click on it. You have to go to where they are. And oftentimes, if you can partner with or collaborate with somebody else who has an audience, then they're bringing some people over to you, right? So we're doing that. We're doing Q&A with experts and some special topics every month. This month has been like vision and planning, a little bit of fitness and health in there as well. So these kind of layered, deep pieces of content that, in my opinion, are going to be hugely effective for like SEO alone, not to mention the collaborative reach, having my face featured with all these other kind of partners and from the industry, and then the embedded YouTube video is a huge deal as well for SEO too. So that's kind of the direction we're taking. Other than that, let's see if I thought I had another point here, but I think it was just the collaboration and really encouraging people. Back when I was struggling in business, I felt very alone. Like I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have friends online. I just felt very much like I was on the sidelines. I didn't really connect with anybody. So if you feel that way, like please just muster up the courage to connect with others, to get featured, like these kinds of things, Skype calls, anything to really build up that community feel, and then also create content, obviously, out of any friendships or partnerships that you make.
Definitely. Well, I'd have to agree. I mean, it's, no one's an island. I think those days of, just put something out there and they'll come are long gone. It's all about people connecting with people, and on a deeper level, like, do they get you? Do they understand you? Do you understand them? And, is that connectivity? And I have to agree. I've also felt like over the holidays, I was thinking and planning, like, what does 2016 look like? Simplifying and connecting with people and creating those deeper relationships where I think, having shares from somebody else's audience is far more valuable if they're the same audience that I'm going for than a Huffington Post article that goes viral. Yeah, it's great for the ego, and it might be good for some, YouTube. But yeah, definitely. Like,
I totally agree. I totally agree. And I felt that way. Like I think it's fascinating that we can reach millions of people. Like literally, I have had friends from high school email me and say, "Oh my gosh, you just showed up on my Pinterest, or you just showed up on my whatever." And then I'll joke back and I'll be like, "Yeah, I'm kind of a big deal. Like, I'm famous on the internet." I'm totally joking, but it's so true though. Like it doesn't always equate to what you think it's going to equate to. You can't assume that just because you get 5 million hits that, 10% of them are going to convert into customers. It's just not that way when you're talking about these masses. When you get, and that's why, when you're talking about specific content for a specific audience, you're absolutely spot on that in order to make more money through as a service provider, like a coach, consultant, or a creative, it really does. Your conversions are higher is what I'm trying to say,
I mean, especially, we haven't even got into talking about, we can definitely touch on that is Facebook ads, the same thing as like I've been testing out the Yazoo, trying to figure out what people click on, there's differences. And it's a great way for you to figure out your audience, who your audience is. Like I was surprised, running Facebook ads, use the same image across different audiences and the different conversions in both, like, following other pages, and things like that. Testing. There's no way around it other than just putting yourself out there and testing it. But before we get into the next step, I just wanted to mention to everyone who's watching, here at Mimiki TV, our guests kindly donate a goodie giveaway. And Susie's kindly donated a really, really valuable her money mindset course, which is worth $200 that you can grab. So I'm going to ask a question soon. And the first person who can answer that question by typing in the comments will be able to win it. So that, because that's what makes it fair, is being able to give everybody opportunity. So let me think. I'm trying to think of what's a good. So what was the first platform that Susie mentioned about how she first got her blog with all those millions of views? What she made those images? It's how would you describe it? It's not Facebook. It's not Twitter.
What platform did I first go viral on? Good question.
Yes. What platform did you first go viral on? And I have to, to give you a hint, it starts with a P. Lots of images. Us women get stuck on there. I can go get stuck on there. There we go.
Got it.
Yay. Well, congrats. How do we say your name? Is it a sister? Right there.
Yeah.
So congrats on that. How would you like her to get in touch with you, Susie?
If she could just send her email, so first name and email to my assistant, it's support@susieromans.com, support@susieromans.com. Send us your information and we'll give you access to that course.
That'd be awesome. Well, thank you so much for donating that. That's what makes it fun of being here on live and taking part in our live shows, is be able to win these awesome things. I'm like, all these guests give away these things. I'm like, I want them too. It sounds awesome. Okay, so before that, let's get back, right? Because this is something I'm sure you could give us as we round up the interview. We were talking about Facebook ads. Any tips on that?
Yeah, I just my heart started fluttering when you said Facebook ads. And the reason being, as I talked about kind of some of the downfalls of going viral, the not so right audience, meaning just not a fit, like they weren't converting. And I'm like, okay, these are the wrong people. What I became obsessed with the first time I tried Facebook ads was, okay, now I can get to the nitty gritty, like the age, whether this person just got married or just had a baby or just started a business, or there's so many things that you can hone in on such a granular level that it's like phenomenal. I mean, it's never been possible in history before. So I get really jazzed up and excited about like, why wouldn't everybody be doing this, right? So I'll tell you my tips. Basically, the curiosity thing I have been using. So we need to pull people in. You cannot expect that you're just going to put up an ad and be all like flashy and salesy and some big yellow button that's like, click here now for blah, blah, blah. if you come across like you're yelling at them and you're promoting something, I feel like people have these really, really great BS radars right now, where you can pick up on somebody who's just selling crap to you, or has no story or background. You just don't get pulled in. You ignore it. We ignore ads. I mean, let's be honest. I don't even go on certain websites anymore. Like some of these magazines, like Self, and some of I was on Men's Fitness for some reason. I was trying to read something and there was so many ads that I just became annoyed and I just got off of it. I'm like, I can't even read the article. So my point is, we want to pull people in when we're using Facebook ads through making them curious and pulling them into our story. That is my strong belief. We have to make them curious and then pull them into our story. So first of all, I stop them in their tracks by having an image that has some sort of like a random, like not a random number, but some number or some phrase or something that would stop them and be like, hold up, what is she talking about? And one of my most effective ads that was literally out of this world successful, like I had a ads manager that's like, I've never seen conversions this low ever. And I was getting conversions for like 50 to 60 cents. And the opt-in page was converting at like 70%. So yeah, like out of this world, right? So here's what I did. I had an image that basically it was a picture of my face, and then it said 5.3 million, and it had a red border around it. And then in the story, I started like telling a story. So I said something along the lines of, when I met my husband, it was back in 2009 that I blah, blah, blah. Like I'll pull them into a story. And then they kind of wonder.
So you're not saying, you're asking a question right there, because I'm trying to figure out, because the Facebook ad, you got text first, right?
You have text, but you also have
the title. So we have the image of the title. So we're talking about just the text. It almost looks like you've just written a blog post, not an ad.
Yeah, right.
Is that the trick? Okay.
Yeah. So I really do believe, though, that the picture stops them first before they read the text. I know what you're saying. The text shows up above the picture, but I really think the picture kind of stops most people in when they're scrolling. So anyway, so the picture with the red border, and they made them curious, like, what is she talking about? And then I'll start telling a little snippet of my story. I don't go over the top. I just give them a little snippet, like, I've always been into entrepreneurship, or when my husband and I met, we were nerds and we were always building websites. Fast forward to now, I've built a 6-figure business. I've had over 5 million hits. And the way that I did all of this was blah, blah, blah. By the way, here's my freebie. So it's something like 3 paragraphs, maybe 4. But I stopped them. I made them curious. I pulled them into my story, and then they began trusting me because they're like, oh, I feel like I get to know this girl, And so I'm doing the same thing as I'm preparing a launch right now for my new program. It's not new. It was available last year, but we're reopening enrollment. I'm preparing some interesting things as well. So the image with some red, with some border, something to stop them, also a little phrase or a number or something that would make people curious. And then I begin to tell a story. Through the first line, it's like a headline. You kind of want to captivate them and be like, what is she talking about? Where is she going with this? But you got to quickly turn it around too. Like fast forward to now, here I am, here's my successes, my credentials, and now I want to give you this gift. So for me, that's been like really effective. I didn't run.
It's almost like not saying how. So the image text doesn't say how to XYZ, but like maybe just a number or. And I've also seen like some Facebook ads that don't even have any text on the image. It's just an image.
Yeah, and I've tried that as well. So I've certainly, just like everyone else, I do test. I try other things. That 5.3 million one that I mentioned was amazing. Like I'm telling you, the numbers were like crazy. We're like, how is this happening? But for sure, I've done things that just have a picture of me, or it's usually me because I'm the face of the brand. I don't really do stock images, only because I feel like it's distant. Who is this stranger? If you're trying to convey an emotion, like I've seen some luxury, retreats and events where you have this beautiful place or like a cabin or, like I get that with landscapes and software, computer images like that. I get it when it's related to what you're selling. But if you're a personal brand or consultant or service provider, I mean, they're buying you, they're buying into you, and you're the face of the brand. So get them to feel like they'll be willing to share their name and email and connect with your brand.
And when you mentioned the red border, is that particularly because it's in line with your brand, or do you think just because it's a bright color it stood out?
I think it's because it's a bright color, to be honest with you. It does not meld in or melt into like the blue scheme. So it's very on the opposite color wheel. I don't know how else to explain.
So what would you say, like, because this is something I've had, I've been worked in design for ages, and for me, it's like I've got it entrenched in my mind that if you're going to do an ad, okay, example, Facebook ad, you click on the ad, then the page you go to, the landing page, needs to look the same as the ad or have the same feel. Now, a lot of my branding, as you can tell, is white, blue, and black, but often I want to put pink in there, and I did an ad with pink, and some people are like, what? Like they didn't get it. So I was like, So do you have a certain format that you prefer, that you would you say, I know this sounds totally weird, but it makes a difference. Close-up smiling shots, or pointing fingers, or more of a just you caught in an emotion, out of your testing? Was there anything that you feel that works better than another?
Not really. In terms of the position or the whatever like face you're making or how close, I've had some where I'm a little bit further away where you could almost see my whole body or 75% of me. That still converted well. I've had some where it's just a close-up of my face. I don't know that there was a huge difference or pointing. I think all those ideas are good. And then to answer, and I would just test it. You know what I mean? It's more about, are you making, not so much like what position is your body in? It's more like, are you making them curious? Are you telling them something that they want to know what's on the other side, right? Like I was just, like I've been saying this whole time, like if they don't really want to figure out what's on the other side, meaning on the other side of that opt-in after they put in their name and email, then you don't have them, right? They really, you got to pull them. So
you're saying like when you with your Facebook ads, then the reason why I'm sure you agree that we love it is because it's so direct. You're finding you can get down to the age group, where their people live, to zip codes, who they follow, what they like. You can't get more specific at a cheaper rate than ever before. Because believe me, I've been working in advertising for 20 years, and this is so much cheaper and so much more specific. And I think, would you agree, Susie, that it's actually a better investment of your time and money to do something, a small ad to a specific group of people who will actually have a better conversion rate to your stuff than just throwing out a random blog post that you hope that you get thousands of views?
I will tell you, my conversions have been higher. Yes. So I wish I could tell you that the 5 million people that hit my blog, that all of them or 10% of them turned into customers, but that wasn't the case. It's been the highly targeted specific ads or specific content. There have been some blog articles and things where, and I can't say that it hasn't been entirely effective. I mean, there are some clients, one-on-one private clients that I'm working with right now that did actually find me through Pinterest. But I think the fast route really is ads. It's fast because you put a budget in there and you know that you're going to get exposure. Whereas it took me about 4 months before my Pinterest post started going viral. And then I started building on that and, helping other people with that. So it grew, but you can't guarantee that someone's going to go viral, but you can sort of guarantee that you put $20 into a Facebook budget every single day, you're going to get exposure. It's just a matter of, are you doing all the other things right? Or are you blowing that budget? Some people do if you're doing it wrong. But you also asked another question that I was going to come back to, which was your brand colors don't necessarily pop off of the Facebook, like you were saying, because you have blue and black and white, which is a lot of what you see on Facebook. So to create like a distraction or attention or kind of stop them, you can either do like a yellow or a red border. I still think you can do a border if the color, if the entire ad or you or something, like I always try to wear colors and stuff that's in alignment with my brand that all matches. So if you just had a border of yellow or bright red or bright orange or something, I don't see why that wouldn't work. I think it would.
Yeah.
I would try.
Well, I did test what I did enjoy. Like for me, I'm always, from my art background, having to use things that are complementary. Like I use a lot of gold, gold or silver, or having the yellow. So yellow and orange and blue work well together. So again, I had about 12 different ads that I did for my last campaign and just try to test them. And that's the thing is it's very hard to know specifically, but at least I know that I can tell immediately because of the conversions, was this a good investment of my time and my budget? But of course, we could go into further detail about what you even put on the other side. Now, besides the fact that you have an opt-in, I mean, you can offer like a PDF or a video series. I mean, for me, obviously as a video expert, I'm always like, offer a video when you can, and giving them a reason to want to, just take action. So if you had to round it up, because I know we've covered a lot of content and, there's so many things we could go into more detail. Would you say right now, you strategize and you're changing things for this year? So less content, but more Pacific content, and then you're going to drive it through Facebook ads. Like, are you going to maybe try like writing posts and then you drive a Facebook ad to a blog post or to a landing page?
No, not really. So the goal behind the content-rich stuff that we were talking about, so being more specific, yes, collaborating with other people. So there's a few goals. More specific, collaborating with people and showing that openly to my community that, hey, I'm not partnered, but I'm friends with all these other people online who also have followings. You want to kind of have that association. Embedding a YouTube video into a piece of content is a big plus in the SEO world. So that's why I've invested in a monthly YouTube video show. And then we also have, you could check this out if you were to go to susieromans.com/Jan for January, JAN, and then a dash 2016, Jan 2016. You'll see this royal report that I'm talking about. There's little images in there that I say, post, pin it, share it, click it, or share it, whatever. And then we'll give away one thing every month to people who are sharing and using our hashtag. But I offer 6 of these little clickable, pinnable, shareable images as well. Thanks for putting that in there. So those are the goals of this. And also because, I want to be an example that I'm doing the things that I'm teaching people. Like I said, in 2015, it was like a big explosion of growth and customers. And it was like managing all of these clients and online programs that this year, it's like, I want to really do the things that I preach and do it really well, better than when I was having or running that lifestyle blog, because it's slightly out of alignment at this point. It's attracting people, like I said, that aren't entrepreneurs and don't necessarily convert as well to the business that I run now at SusieRomans.com. So that was the goal. What was the other part of the question that you asked?
I was just saying, in terms of your content strategy, where you used a couple of years ago, Pinterest was your thing, but now, again, as you align your goals and your things are changing, but at the end of the day, content is still king, but less is more. And, you're saying being more Pacific. So these are some great tools, and I'm taking notes too.
Yeah.
Always encouraging people that the essence of being a viral isn't necessarily about being famous, but it's about connecting with the right audience and getting them to convert, because we want sales, right? We want clients at the end of the day. We're not just doing this for our health. We want to be able to create businesses and lives that we love. So I know we've covered a ton of content, and I'm going to thank everybody who's been popping in and out and adding their comments. What is the best way for people to get in touch with you? So we got SusieRomans.com is your website. What is do you have a Facebook group?
I do. It's called the Inspired Income Club. So I'm assuming if you type that in, you should find it. The Inspired Income Club. It's almost about 1,500 people in there right now, I believe. Also, what else? So SusieRomans.com, my program that's opening up soon for women or men who are in a service-based industry, coaches, consultants. I work with a lot of creatives. I even work with some fashion designers and photographers. The name of the program is Sweet Freedom Academy. So it's sweetfreedomacademy.com. It's going to be opening up within the next few weeks here for enrollment. And that's kind of my flagship program. We've got about, I think it's like almost 80 women in that right now. And my goal for the year is to welcome 500 people into the program. And it's totally inclusive of everything from mindset to building your audience to creating offerings, pricing, all sorts of different things. It's all the way from zero to building a 6-figure business, multiple 6 figures even. What did I do? And people get access to everything, every module right up front, which is also something that's a little bit unique.
That'll be awesome. Well, I've got to say thank you so much for joining us. I know I've got to hop into another blab in another few minutes, but make sure that you stalk Susie online. Find her, tell her you saw her on Mamiki TV. And if you also want to be able to get more resources to help boost your visibility online, grow your business, video is the way to do it, to get your face out there. Stop hiding your face off camera. I know I can see and hear you. You're too shy to get on camera, but there's things that you can do to really boost visibility. Because, I saw something on Mashable the other day that said 78% of web traffic is now coming from videos. So
wow.
Video is the word for 2016, is the new content strategies, getting yourself out there, connecting with an audience. So you can go and grab, I have a video toolkit. Let me put it in here. You go to my website at mamikacooney.com, and it's a free toolkit. And also I do monthly workshop webinars. And the last one we did was called Viral Video Visibility. So we talk about marketing strategies to get yourself out there. So go to mamikacooney.com, grab that today. And if you'd like today's content, please share it with your friends. Click our little button that says tweet a bird, post on Facebook. Let your friends know you saw Susie on Mamika TV, and let's share a like and get our businesses going. So I'm going to say thanks again, Susie, for joining me. I hope to connect with you offline someday in person, and because I think you're not too far. I'm on the East Coast too. And I'm going to say thanks so much for being part of the show today.
Yeah, it's been wonderderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for the content. I'm making notes here. I'm going to go back and do some work.
I'm glad. I'm here to share. So, all right. You have a great day. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.